Get your spam emojis ready. But first, I think we should talk a little bit about what makes a top tier character, right? And I feel like this is something that when you understand why a character is top tier, it helps you understand like what's good in fighting games, right? And it helps you understand like figure out characters better. Just having a good comprehension of why someone is good. And for the most part, I feel like the number one thing is consistency. It's consistency in everything. So like even though Nago has fixed movement, a lot of the time it doesn't, like most situations they don't really punish him for his movement as often. Like obviously there are matchups like Axel or Happy Chaos. Those are ones obviously where the movement is a problem. But what he gets, for that is he gets routes like this, right? He gets to convert off of almost anything, really. This combined with the fact that he's got great buttons, right? Like this is like one of the best 5Ks in the game in terms of everything, like especially like what he can get off of it, right? Point is, he gets a lot of damage off all of his hits, and not only that, he's got great range, he's got great buttons, but most of the things that really matter for what makes him top tier is the consistency of his damage, right, and his range. Those are the things that will separate characters from each other the most. Like, if you have range over any other characters, especially with great buttons like 2S or like, 5K, all these options are fairly safe, right? They're hard to punish. If you do punish them, you don't really get much off of it. Whereas if you get hit, right, he smokes you. Inherently, if you compare these two characters, right, like Soul, for example, he's very good as well. He's got like everything, right? But what makes him stand out in comparison to Nago is Soul's damage on counter hits is significantly different than on regular hits, right? Most of the time, his hit confirms don't lead to much. Here, for example, if you get like a revolver knockdown, you don't do that much damage, but this situation is really good, right? Whereas Nago pretty much gets it off every, right? Soul with a counter hit can do way more damage. I gotta remember how to do this combo. That's how you know it's been a while. Good enough. Nago's return is pretty much consistent no matter what, right? Soul's is reliant on counter hits or meter, but that still doesn't account for the fact that he's typically low range, right? Like he has 6S, of course, he has 6H, these are great, like mid-range footsies options. But for approaching, most of his return is pretty low without meter, right? Whereas again, with like Nago, like and no matter what button he hits you with, he can confirm. Wall break for him especially is super beneficial because he doesn't need meter that much. Since he has his own mechanic, this is pretty much the thing he has to work around. If a really good character knocks you down, he can just kill you in one interaction, right? If Nago bites you, this situation is like his win condition, right? Because that means he gets to start pressure for a long time. They bite you and they go ham on offense, right? Like they get to RPS with you and you truly have to guess, right? Now this is noteworthy because that means for Nago, right, he can always get some form of combo, right? Again, unless he has his blood too high and he can't go into super. So like all ranges he gets hit confirms, right? Again, it weighs down to consistency. Whereas on offense, it's fucked up against him because you have to respect his grab because it puts you in an even worse situation. So like again, like you can see how these situations that come up, they just favor him tremendously. Soul, for example, if he runs corner pressure, once he's done close slash and he's like too far away for that, it's pretty much just RPS around far slash and 5H, which means against far slash, backdashes are really good against it, or like jumping. Jumping is also a lot better against 5H, like if you did close slash, far slash 5H. But this is like a good comparison, right? So like Soul is very strong. Like this isn't to dismiss him. He's got some of the best defensive options. I mean, he's probably got the best defensive options in the game with 5K, 5P. But again, like you can see a clear distinction between typically a lot of Nago's frame data is around, it's either plus or slightly minus, or like for example, like his 5K is this is zero on block. The fact that this is 0 should tell you a lot. But yeah, it typically all boils down to consistency and how often you can get to those situations. So let's talk about someone like Leo, right? He, like, functionally is not that great of a character. Like, his frame data kind of sucks. It's like, okay. But what makes him really good is he can always go into his win condition, right? If he flash kicks you, he can win off this interaction, right? Like, just off that one interaction. Like, even though his frame data can be kind of whack, it's like, it doesn't really matter that much. Because even on defense, he can force his... He can force, like, his, you know, his cool offense shit. I still don't know why they gave him a dash cancel on 5k. That shit is... That is something else. His weakness is he doesn't do a ton of damage. He just loops you in the situation really easily, and it's hard to defend him. But, like, because he can start it from anything, like, even if he just, like, TPs you, that may be, like, all that matters, right? Like, he could just win off a flash kick. Again, it comes back to consistency. Alright, so Ram is also a great example of this, because, like, she's, right, like, she can get stuff with, like, Rekkas. I don't even know he'd do, like, the clean Rekka stuff. A lot of the time, she's not going to get something substantial without meter. One thing that makes her good is this situation. She can pretty much just loop this indefinitely, depending on how you do pressure, right? So all she has to do is like keep linking her pressure, do like run ups. The point is, like, she can loop you in this position, and it fucking sucks because you don't have any reliable answers besides FDing, and then once she's far enough, she may preemptively do jump E to jail you in. She may just like keep pressuring and use, like, you know, something like that. I hate Recon Whip. Recon Whip is my least favorite thing in this game. In general, Rekka is honestly like a great example of what we want to talk about. What makes Ram really good, or what makes the character really good, is in this move alone, right? There's no reliable way to punish this, right? Besides, you instant block, and if they're close enough, you can throw, right? Like that, right? So what Ram players tend to do is they'll use the threat of Rekka 1 and 2 to actually like pressure you longer, which is like a problem because she builds so much meter while she's doing it. Like, watch her meter gain while I do that. And since she can do it at any different like timing, like she can delay it super long, it's hard to reliably instant block. She has a lot of guaranteed stuff. Hard, it's almost guaranteed, but like she can always represent it with a threat. Again, like you can see a lot of the time, what matters a lot for what makes a character strong, or like what makes them stand out more, is the consistency of where they get to their actions, right? Most characters we've talked about, besides like Nago, has like clear-cut weaknesses in how they interact with you. Like Ram typically won't get much of straight hits. The benefit of it is her pressure is much better in the corner, whereas Souls it's good, but it's not as good as hers off the fact that she can always RPS with sword. You can see like it's basically like they tend to do pretty well in similar areas. They just have like something kind of holding them back, right? All these characters, like again, like Nago still has a weakness. It's just not one many characters can take advantage of, at least not consistently. And again, that's all that matters, right? Consistency. Everything I've talked about so far has just been consistency, right? The last one that like frequently comes up for what makes a top tier character, or like a top tier character, is Mei, right? Like some people really like Mei as top tier, some people don't. She's also in the same demographic where a lot of her straight hits don't really like amount to much. You can see like they don't really matter that much on hit. Her S Dolphin RPS is something you should be like, if you haven't like practiced against her, you have to know what you're doing against her. You might as well not even like play the game if you don't know. In other words, bike and Kitty, I'm glad you figured it out. Soul can 6H punish everything after a blocked S Dolphin. If she blocks it, it like doesn't really matter. Like it does not really matter at all. Like one of her weaknesses, but of course like she has some of the like the best risk in the game, and she also has a really good command grab. What makes her really good is that when she gets hits, they're typically pretty okay, though she does have like a better hard knockdown off straight hits than most characters, assuming you do like, you know, 5k or something. How strong you consider Mei is how much you consider like how often she can corner you. It's how consistent you think she can do that, or like how much stock you put into like her air mobility or like her hair buttons. Again, like it all boils down to the consistency of what makes her strong, right? So most of the really strong characters still have like, they still have strong options. Like again, like I've never training with this character before, and I'm doing a Mei combo, right? There's a chain of command, so to speak, right? There's like a list of like the most consistent to the most inconsistent, which like as a top tier, they're still gonna be much more consistent than half the cast, right? Like they're gonna be still doing this no matter what. What will probably matter is how well you build risk. Every character I listed can build risk really well. Like if you just do like a basic soul pressure, right? Like a string. That's about 50%. I think this will matter a lot more as risk gets hit. Every character on this list basically can build risk really quickly. I think they should reduce risk, at least to a degree. That's basically it. I went over like the basics of like what makes a character strong, I guess, but it's mostly about the consistency, you know.